Hi everyone, welcome to a session on teaching cloud code, the art of data engineering. All of us know when it comes to data engineering, it's sort of art and science both. My name is Pragnesh Patil. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Ultimate AI. Very pleased to be here to talk about how to supercharge cloud code and teach it the art of data engineering with the skills that we have just open sourced. With me, I also have Saurabh Arora, who is one of our rockstar product managers, focuses very deeply on these AI skills, etc. So today our plan is to do an overview of these cloud code skills for you, of particularly for data engineering, what we have shared in the GitHub repository, as well as to show you a demo of how to use these skills to improve the performance of Claude when it comes to improving the data engineering workflows and how to turn it into a supercharged data engineering assistant. As you know, Cloud Code is an amazing solution to accelerate engineering workflows across the board, especially software engineering. But when it comes to data engineering, it needs some help. And that's what we are going to talk about. If you are not familiar with Cloud Skills already, Cloud Skills are sort of instructions, guidelines that you can feed into Cloud Code to do specific things better, especially specialized workflows when it comes to data engineering, etc. Now, how these skills work, there are two main parts to it. One is trigger conditions, where in which situation this skill should be used. And second is when that trigger happens for that particular workflow, what are the things that Claude should do? So the workflow instructions. Now let's take an example, pretty classic when it comes to data engineering, creating a DBT model. So for a trigger condition, you would have description, right? Hey, this is a skill related with creating a DBT model. You use this when you are creating any new model, or if the task mentions create or build. And third piece is modifying model logic. So if somebody is trying to even take existing DBT model and trying to update it, this is when this particular skill should be triggered. And now when somebody is doing that particular type of work, when that trigger condition gets triggered, the second part is what are the workflow instructions. Okay, so obviously read before you write, build after you write, etc. Because when it comes to DBT model, you have to always run DBT build to make sure what you have actually written as Claude as a code is actually compiling and building right. And then once that part is done, always verify with DBT show. And if build fails 3 times, reassess. So these are the set of instructions that particular skill when it comes to building a DBT model or creating a DBT model that maps into. And this is just an example on how Claude skills work and what we have released when it comes to data engineering skills, specifically creating DBT model. Now let me show you the list of the available skills that we have open source in GitHub repository called Data Engineering Skills here. So on the DBT side, we have open source creating DBT models, which will help people with model creation as we were just looking at. Debugging DBT errors. We can build models, but a lot of times as we write code or data changes, models fail. So we have a skill around debugging DBT errors also, as well as testing DBT models. You need to test the schemas, whether they match project style or not. Those pieces are covered as well. And with testing, documentation comes hand in hand as you're trying to document these DBT models around generating descriptions for these DBT models as well as columns. We have added a skill as well. Now, we have seen a lot of companies are migrating over from traditional SQL into DBT. And for that conversion, going from some other SQL dialect into DBT models also. If you're using Claude Code for that conversion, we have a skill for that as well. And as you build more and more DBT models, things start getting complex. You realize I need to refactor some code for optimization or for just better readability. we have created skill for refactoring DBT models also. And that's just one tool. So in the DBT area, we are open sourcing these skills. When it comes to Snowflake, when it comes to Snowflake, usually query optimization or figuring out exactly which queries are very expensive, it's a perennial task. That's where we have open source finding expensive queries and optimizing query by ID and text. And this is just the beginning. This is an open source repo done under MIT license. We are also looking at open sourcing Airflow skills, cross-platform migration, and supporting a bunch of other tools also, especially even in the areas of data quality workflows, etc. Here is a quick example of how you can quickly get started and what kind of skills you can use. So these skills are already available on the marketplace. So the command you run when you are inside Cloud Code, probably many of you are already using it. You just go and add a marketplace for Ultimate AI data engineering skill, and you can add directly skills from there, or you can install individual packs also with the command I'm showing you on the screen here. And once you do it, you are uh, foolproof. Then as you are giving prompt to your Cloud Code, whether it's about creating a new model or fix this compilation error, the right skill will get picked. So for example, if you have given a text like, hey, this query is slow, optimize it, especially for Snowflake, automatically based on that trigger condition, as I was showing you earlier, optimizing query text, particular skill will get triggered. This will save you a lot of effort on creating your own Cloud Code skills for your data engineering tasks. Just use the repo, install the plugin, and start using the skills in a few minutes. Now, what we have seen is we have done some side-by-side testing also against analytics data engineering benchmark that has been out there. And we have seen tremendous results across multiple criteria. For example, when we did model creation, without these skills, the baseline was at 40%. But with skills, we saw it jumped to up to 65%. So change was up to 25 points, uh, especially for debugging. The baseline was at 35%. In that ADE benchmark, there are a bunch of different tasks in the individual area. We saw without the skills I'm talking about, the baseline was at 35%. And after the skills were installed, that level jumped to 50%. So 15 points improvement. And overall, we are seeing ADA bench accuracy up to 53% with the use of these skills. And not just on the ADE benchmark side for the DBT, etc. We did the same validation on the Snowflake side as well for these queries, etc. with the optimization. Initial baseline was around 77%, but once we use these skills for optimization, the query pass rate sort of jumped from 77% to almost 84%. And even the improvement side, even better, more than pass rate, the improvements we saw were 3.6x up to 3.6x. So the improvement baseline improved from 4.7% to 16.8% when it comes to sort of benchmarking these results with Cloud Code skills that we have open source and without using skills and just using Cloud Code, vanilla Cloud Code for your day-to-day data engineering tasks. Now, in the next part, what we are going to do is we are going to show it to you in a demo. And here is the repo. Saurabh will cover 3 key pieces: how to install these Cloud skills, and creating DBT model, just one other skills, and do side-by-side comparison on doing that without skill in Cloud Code and doing it with skill in Cloud Code.
Hello, folks. For this demo, I would be taking you through a very commonly used DBT demo project called Jaffle Shop. The idea is to demonstrate creating a new DBT model with skills as well as without skills using vanilla Cloud Code. As Pradnesh was mentioning, you could easily add these skills in your Cloud Code by using the command / plugin add, which can be found in the GitHub repository. On my left hand side terminal, I have the skills for DBT that I have already added. These are the skills that got added. And on the right hand side, I don't have any skills. I have the vanilla Claude Code. Now let us try adding a new model in this Jaffle Shop project, which is customer segmentation model, which basically segments customers for this particular shop called Jaffle Shop on the basis of recency, frequency, monetary analysis, which is a very common use case for customer segmentation across industries. I have basically asked it to create this model and given certain high level instructions and asked it to add the appropriate tests and documentation. Let's go ahead and look at a side by side comparison of how Cloud Code does it with skills versus without skills. As you can see on the left hand side, the skill has been loaded successfully. Here you can see that Cloud Code is just looking at patterns, reading files in the current repository. Now, this particular Cloud Code session is actually looking for schema files to understand any existing documentation patterns, naming conventions, etc. But here it's directly jumping to writing SQL first code. On the left hand side, you can actually see that it understood your project conventions and is now looking at the upstream data directly in Snowflake in this case by running the appropriate dbt show commands. After gathering all the information, it is going ahead with the creation. But here it jumped directly to writing the code because Cloud Code is a world coding model. It is tuned to write code. Hence, it jumped directly into writing code without actually gathering all the facts, understanding the data, understanding naming conventions, etc. And here, after writing the model, it will directly jump to updating your schema file to add the documentation and test for this model. But here, after writing the model, you can see that it is going to compile your model and check whether the written model actually works or not. Now, after successfully compiling the model, uh, it understood that the compilation succeeded. Now it has to build the model to actually test it out. So it will go ahead and build the model. Here, Claude Code actually lost its chain of thought and is going to write markdown files, which is never a practice followed in DBT projects. Every documentation generally follows schema.yml files for documentation. But here you can see that it actually went ahead with the build. The build succeeded, and now it is moving to verify the output to make sure that that data looks correct. So it will run a set of dbt show commands again and verify whether your model is working or not. After doing all of this with skills, then it is going to update the documentation after verifying successfully, building and testing the model with actual data in Snowflake. And here now it is going to compile. While it is compiling with skills, Cloud Code is actually going to test the models individually as well. Now, after the tests have passed, it is actually going to do one final verification to check some sample calculations manually as well by doing a full refresh. Now, if you see on the right, it's actually after doing all the changes, it is able to find out that it actually did a bunch of stuff wrong while writing the model. And now it will go back and try correcting those mistakes. And you can look on the right, it is directly running the models without actually compiling and building them after making all the incremental changes, which is again a huge red flag when working with LLM specific to DBT code bases. During testing, it also realized that there is a varchar limitation in Snowflake, so it is trying to appropriately cast the values with, of course, a full refresh, whereas all the compilation or run commands here are not running in a full refresh mode. And it stumbled upon other errors when it started running. The best part is that, as Pradnesh was mentioning, skills actually helps you transfer the skills that you as a data engineer use in your day-to-day workflow, which is analyze before writing a single piece of code, or whenever you have written a single piece of code, always verify it with upstream as well as downstream data to make sure that whatever you have written actually works. And both sessions have been completed, but one session was all about Claude Code. First, understanding your project naming conventions, understanding your documentation conventions, understanding how you design your schemas, verifying each and every change that it makes by actually conferring with the data in Snowflake rather than just creating the models or jumping right into code first. It also implemented uh, appropriate tests on various columns, whereas the other one just added tests on a few columns. Here it actually hallucinated and wrote a completely new artifact docs.md, whereas documentation and tests are generally added to schema.yml.
Um, there were a few questions that came in for those of you joining us on YouTube and LinkedIn. Thank you for that. Pradnesh, I think we're going to want to go back to the benchmark slide. So if you want to pull that up, we can show it. But first, a couple of questions for you, Saurabh. What are the impacts on token consumption of using skills, have you found?
So it depends. I mean, if it's a complex enough task, then what we have observed is that the tokens that are being used with skills are generally lesser because of the lesser back and forth prompting and iteration that you need to do with Claude Code. Like if you use skills, you probably might have to nudge it at max once, but if you're not using skills, you might have to nudge it multiple times to make sure that whatever it is writing is actually usable. But in very simple scenarios, since skills are kind of codified instructions for Cloud Code, these end up consuming slightly more tokens than without skills.
Got it. And in terms of the impact on achieving the task, does the introduction of skills speed things up because there's less prompting, or does it actually just mean you're running for a much longer period of time?
It actually helps a lot, is what we have observed across various use cases, not just dbt and Snowflake, but other tools, as Pratnesh was mentioning, that we would be releasing. So with skills, the back and forth that you need to do, wherever it hallucinates, stop Cloud Code and ask it not to do this, but do that instead. So all of those cycles that are very frustrating generally for any engineer working with Cloud Code or any other frontier LLM models, skills actually abridges that gap a lot. Skills can be thought of as at a very high level. Like engineers used to maintain playbooks or run books wherein they have a certain set of instructions that are generally best practices that are to be followed. And skills actually allows you to train Cloud Code to do certain tasks in a certain way.
And just to be clear, I'll try and bring Pradnesh back in here. Hopefully we can hear you, Pradnesh. Your video seems to be frozen. There you are. So one question is, there are lots of technologies out there. For example, there was an announcement by the team at Dagster that they were publishing Claude Skills. But their announcement was essentially, here are Claude Skills for if you were writing Dagster pipelines. This GitHub repo that we're looking at now, to be clear, are these specific to the Altimate platform, or are they for general use in data engineering?
So the repo that we have open source, the goal is these are the skills for all different data engineering tools. So as I showed you, dbt, Snowflake will be adding skills for example, Airflow as well. So this is sort of a repo for all the different scale for a lot of different tools that people use for data engineering.
Great. And it's open source, so I assume you're open to community contributions?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a open source repo under MIT license. So if you're interested in contributing some other skills, please go ahead, create a PR. Or if you think that some skill can be useful but don't know how to create it, etc., feel free to even create an issue. And as you use these skills, if you run into any bugs, etc., please file an issue in the repo itself. Our team will be working actively on it, and some other contributors who have started contributing as well.
Great. Let me see if I can. Yes, I can bring this up with the three of us. So Samantha, wasn't so much a question as just an observation on these are very impressive benchmark results, and I was hoping maybe you could double click on like some of the things that were surprising as we built this and tested it in terms of where this performance improvement came from. I know, Surab, you've been very hands-on with this. Were there interesting lessons learned along the way that were surprising to you?
There were quite a lot of interesting lessons along the way. I mean, ADE bench is sort of like the SWE bench for data engineering. And when you actually work on a lot of tasks which are part of this bench, these are purposely created to be ambiguous, to be obtuse, to test out how LLMs perform. And skills was a very welcome change. Even like we use DBT intensively. So for us, enabling our use cases, automating a large part of our workflows, skills was a godsend.
And I know sometimes benchmarks, they work academically, and then we kind of question in our day-to-day work, you know, am I really achieving that? Are you really finding like these are very impressive numbers? In the work that we are doing internally on the Altimate platform, you know, delivering AI-driven tools for data engineering, are you really seeing this type of performance improvement as you're doing day-to-day work?
Yes, we have on DBT as well as Snowflake side.
Right.
And our customers are also realizing these gains.
Perfect. Well, those were all the questions we had for today. Thank you, gentlemen, for the overview and the context around Claude Skills. Clearly, this is becoming adopted. And while we're talking about Claude Skills, we should note that skills as a concept is being applied much broader than that in AI. So these are very applicable across the board.
Yeah, so just to summarize, the name of the repo is data-engineering-skills. So data engineering skills, search it on the GitHub. Feel free to start the repo, create the issues. And in addition to skills, a lot of times you need context from the rest of the data stack, the metadata information, as well as ability to connect your knowledge bases, etc. Some of those we offer through our free to sign up product on the website as well. So definitely check out Ultimate AI website and check out the repo, and feel free to use the skills and improve your workflows tremendously.